Okay, welcome back everyone to the Athlete's Mind podcast. What a way to start off 2024, our first podcast episode of the year. All of you really love the basketball episodes we've done, and all you Wildcats fans are going to love this one. Kristian Doolittle, Perth Wildcats player, thank you so much for joining us today. How are you? How's your day been?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. No problem. We really appreciate athletes like yourself coming on, obviously, with your busy schedule during the season. The first question we like to ask our athletes when they come on is just a bit of backstory. So, how did you actually get into basketball, and where did the journey begin for you?
I got into basketball through my older brother. He's 5 years older than me, so I kind of followed in his footsteps, playing the variety of different sports that he played. It was just natural. So playing year-round baseball, football, basketball. And so, and then my dad was a basketball referee as well. So we grew up going to a lot of games to watch him, like the games that he was reffing. And so being introduced that way as well.
And did you always know that basketball was sort of your path? Or did you mention like football, baseball? Did you ever want to sort of make it pro with those sports?
I actually like football more.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And my brother turned out to be a football player as well. But I gave up football after my freshman year in high school, and that's when I started playing basketball full time. I was better at football than I was basketball until, I dedicated more time to basketball. But, I kind of had my choice of what I wanted to do, and so I like basketball more.
Yeah. And like going back to saying that your dad was a referee and you'd go to your games, did he give you like any like tips and like, I'm guessing like you would have learn all your defense from him and all that. Like, did he give you any tips on how to just stay?
Kind of, sort of. He would explain what the referee looks for, and so I was able to learn basketball through a referee's mindset first, rather than the traditional way. But I feel like it gives me, like you said, an edge on defense because I know if I'm fouling or not, or understanding what I can and cannot do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess you're kind of seeing it from like a different perspective. Obviously, your dad being a ref. Something that I did actually want to ask you about that we've heard a bit about you is your size 17 feet when you were 12 years old, I think. So, how did you sort of go about buying basketball shoes? Obviously, now it's quite easy with getting things online. Yeah. But how did you sort of go about that?
Well, back then there was no differential between basketball shoes and everyday shoes. There was a time where we would have to go to like an outlet store and honestly just buy the biggest shoes that they had. Especially when my feet started growing, I went from a 13 in fifth grade all the way up to transitioning from a 13. Then a couple weeks later I'm in a 14. A couple weeks later I'm in a 15. Then it skipped 16 completely, went straight to a 17 by the time I started sixth grade. So. I wore a lot of Chuck Taylors. They were the ones who made a lot of the biggest shoes. Yeah. And Nike's always made big shoes. So, but unfortunately, like back then, buying them online and shipping them to your house, what isn't what it is now. So, we would have to drive down to Texas sometimes whenever we were at a basketball tournament and go shopping and get the biggest shoes that they had.
Yeah, right. And growing up, obviously playing basketball and all the other sports, not even in basketball, but were there any like athletes that you sort of like to base your game off, or even your work ethic?
Growing up, not so much. I would say my favorite player has always been LeBron, but I feel like as I got older and I was able to find my own niche, I was able to find players that played a way that I would like to mimic or take certain parts from their game. And I would say, as I got older, my favorite player became Kawhi.
Oh, yeah.
Especially when he was with the Spurs.
Oh, yeah.
His first, when he first came up with the Spurs, seeing how he's a two-way player before, he was more of a defensive player before he developed his offensive side and growing that way. Understanding like how the Spurs play, how they they're more defensive minded and team oriented, and so I would say that's kind of how I am as a person as well. So seeing his maturation and seeing how he's progressed to be one of the best players in the league, he's someone I definitely like to look up to.
Sure,
that's pretty good. All right, so now moving on to like your current life and your career. So how have you found Australia so far and like playing for the Wildcats? How have you found it this season?
It's been great. This is the first country I've been in to where they speak English. So
it's
it makes things a lot easier. Not having to have a guide everywhere that you go or Google Translate. to like do the basic things. But playing here has been amazing as well. You know, Perth is a great place. The league is very competitive, and so I like things like that to where I always feel like I'm getting better in a variety of ways. You know, the goal every year, regardless of where I play, is to win a championship, and so that's a main factor for me whenever I decide to go somewhere and play. I want to know that they want to win, and so seeing the history that Perth has and the Wildcats and the success that they've had, and with the roster that they had, it was a great choice for me to come in.
Yeah, that's so. You arrived Perth 2 days before the first NBL game.
Yeah.
Just like what was your first impression of the Wildcats? You briefly mentioned before, and like just did you know anything about the NBL when you were coming off that plane or anything?
I didn't know anything. I had only known what Brady's family.
Yeah, Brady Manic. Yeah.
Growing up with him, my family and his have a very close connection, and so they had shared, their experiences from being over here and seeing, they came to watch Brady play. And so I had heard that it was I only heard great things about it.
Yeah.
I didn't know what to expect whenever I was flying over here. Like you said, I got here 2 days before the first game, so it was kind of, just trying to make the most of the situation, understanding that I was going to be behind on some things, but having the trust from the coaching staff and management in me to be able to pick it up along the way.
And how did you go about, because you came here 2 days before the game, training in the game, did you know any players' names, plays, or
No,
how did you have to learn all that?
When the game started, I knew 3 people's names.
Yeah.
And I knew one play. And so, at the same time, while not knowing the names and knowing the plays, it's still basketball.
Yeah.
So a lot of the times it was still, especially how we played, was more, your instincts will take over. And so I feel like that helped me a lot. And hell, I played a lot of the first game, even though I didn't know what was going on. But I feel like that just goes to show that I can be in any type of situation and still make the most out of it.
Yeah, that's pretty good. It's just going back to Australia. How does it compare to you? You've been country to country. How does it compare to Europe? And what have you noticed that is different in Australia than it is in Europe? Or
I would say the preparation is different, and the levels of intensity. I feel like with Europe, there's no anything outside of basketball. It's not considered in anything. I feel like here it's the understanding that your body needs rest and the practice schedules and things like that. The things that go on behind the scenes that go into your preparation for the game. I feel like the atmosphere is also different, but with it being different in certain places, I feel like there's no pro or con. With Europe, you play maybe one game a week, and so you're practicing 5 times a week, sometimes having 2 days. With the grind, I feel like the grind is different, only because it's just their culture. Depending on the country that you're in. But being here in Australia has been a blessing. Just understanding that you can still be competitive while also being able to take care of your body, and that's been able to save me a lot, because those 2 days in Europe and the grind of the off season and stuff. So it takes a lot of you, not only physically but also mentally.
Yeah.
Because you're always, the intensity is just so high at all times. There's no let's take it easy.
Well, just speaking outside of basketball, as Australia as a whole, what have your thoughts been on the weather, the culture, the people? How have you sort of found that aspect of being here?
The weather this is what it's like for me back home.
Yeah.
So I'm used to it being hotter. So I'm not too affected by the weather. The people are very nice. It's coming from America is you're kind of thrown off by how nice people are. So it's refreshing, because like I said, every country is different, and so it's been a blessing for me and my wife to be able to be here, and she loves it, so that makes it easier on me. So but like I said, everything here has been great. It's definitely been a great experience that I'll definitely remember and keep in consideration whenever I'm making another choice of where I want to go play.
Yeah. So with the Wildcats, you've won 3 from the last 4 games. It really seems that you guys have found your feet again. Just what's the difference been what's the difference been from not only yourself but the team and getting into that good form, good rhythm? Because like you're now second on the ladder, where the start of the season you're a bit of a slope, just like
I would say the losing those games as early as we did has helped us to be in this position now. Understanding that the games that we've won now, being down 14 like we were in New Zealand, we would have lost that game at the beginning of the season. We wouldn't have been able to climb back into the game and not necessarily panic or be not rattled, but being, I feel like, too tense and feel like the situation is getting away from us. But now we understand that it's a long game. It's a game of runs, and understanding that when a team makes their run, it's only going to be a matter of time before we make ours. Being able to get stops on defense, I feel like we came a long way. Being able to switch up how we guard different teams, and so I feel like our versatility has only been shown. It's been shown more over these last couple of games.
Alright, so now going on to your championships. So you've won 2 in the BCN champs in 2020 and 2022, and then the B League D3 championship in 2023. How were those experiences, and are you trying to keep that going with the Wildcats currently?
Definitely. I feel like regardless of wherever you win the championship, being in that type of atmosphere kind of prepares you for the next one. And so, getting those jitters out of the way. And so I was fortunate enough, my very first year out of college, I won a championship.
Yeah, it does.
And so, I've been able to compete for a championship every year, besides one when I was in Israel. But other than that, I've been in the championship game every single year. And so, like I said, my whole focus point is just trying to win. And so championship is a goal for me every year that I play, because I won't be able to play forever, so I'm trying to win as many as I can.
So have you mentioned that to Bryce and Wagstaff guys? They've got so many, and Wildcats just having that so much success, it really just helps, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. Especially, like you said, they've been in championship games and they've won some as well. So that type of maturation definitely goes into play whenever we're in close games, and understanding, those two are our leaders on the team, and so we follow their lead, and so they definitely keep us calm whenever the games get intense in fourth quarter and stuff like that. But understanding that we're in control of this, we're in control of our destiny.
What would you say has been like, talking about like leagues that you've played in, where does the NBL sort of rank amongst the other leagues that you've played in, like competitive wise?
I would say this was probably at the top competitively. Every game is close, regardless of who's on the roster. I feel like it's not going to be an easy game, and I feel like the talent level from imports and locals are pretty much even. So, some teams have imports that have different roles on their team that they're required to do different things, but I feel like you have to take everybody seriously. Yeah.
And talking a bit about your personal game style, like I've noticed that, we all have noticed that your defense is really good this season, and recently something that I've noticed watching the games is you've been taking more shots from outside. And would you say that sort of comes as a confidence thing for you, like taking more shots and taking those 3-pointers?
Not necessarily. I've always, since my whole career, I've shot 40% from 3, so I know I can shoot. I feel like for me, it's understanding, time and situation. I feel like I let the game come to me, so I'm not going to go into any game thinking that I have to go, do X, Y, or Z. I'm just going to take the shot when I feel like I need to, or, being as confident to pass it as well. I'm very unselfish. I don't look at the stat sheet after the game. I just feel like my whole takeaway from a game is if I feel like I did the most to be able to help us win, regardless of what that might be. So, I've always been told to shoot more, but I'll score when I kind of score when I want to. I pass when I want to. I just go out there and play, and so I feel like as you mentioned, I've been taking those shots more. But it's the confidence is always there. Yeah,
fair enough. It's a good mentality to have, like no matter how many points you're scoring, you're always doing what you can to make the team win, even if you're not scoring. It's very important. Now, taking a bit of a step back, you spent 4 years at Oklahoma College, playing for the Sooners in the Big 12 division. How was that having full 4 years, and how was that overall experience?
It was a great experience. Went to OU so I could stay home. I'm from Oklahoma, and having my family be able to come watch me play was big for me. So I was fortunate enough to have a good, familiar face in the crowd every time. My parents went to every game that I played, home or away. Home games, I would be able to have my extended family there as well. But playing in the Big 12 definitely prepared me for a lot of adversity because it was one of the toughest conferences, in college basketball. So, that's a grind as well. Every game matters, and so I feel like I was able to learn a lot and progress a lot from those experiences.
And what's like the atmosphere in college? Because you see on TV March Madness, like all the students are just going absolutely crazy. Like they've painted themselves red or anything.
Yeah.
How's that like? How's the atmosphere?
It's definitely unique.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say there's anything like March Madness. I was blessed to go there twice, and was going to go there a third time before COVID happened. But even outside of March Madness, being in those rivalry games, and so I feel like the crowd cares. They're invested into the games. The student sections and things like that. That's what college basketball is about to me.
And with all the different players you've played with, you've been to many places playing basketball. How would you say Bryce Cotton sort of ranks up against these other players? Because obviously, for myself and Talon and everyone else that watches the Wildcats, like Bryce Cotton's been massive for us. People considering him like the best in Australia, so
best import to come out of Australia.
100%. So where would you sort of rank him as a player and also as sort of that mental side as well, like mentoring the others?
I would say he's definitely up there at the top. He's probably the best player I've played with. Not only because of what he does on the court, but how he carries himself as well. It's rare to have somebody who's not arrogant, who has success, and so I commend him a lot for being a humble person. Even if there are some games where somebody else has it going, he doesn't hesitate to keep feeding them, understanding that the ball is not it's gonna find him still. He's while he scores, he still has a team mindset, and so I feel like that's what makes us really, really good. And he pushes everybody to be their best because with him having success, we feel like that we have to hold ourselves accountable as well, because we don't want to let him down as a team because he does so much for us. And so regardless of what that may look like for others, I feel like we're only playing our best.
Also, what's also like, I don't want to take this away from you, but like number one pick mock drafts, like Alex Sarr, 18 in the NBL, toughest competition, like you said. Just what's it like for him, and all, like how's he been going through?
I feel like he's grown a lot. Sometimes you forget that he is still a teenager, and so it's while his upside is tremendous, he's still playing against grown-ups. With that, I feel like it's only going to help him as he progresses through his career. And I feel like the things that he's been able to learn while playing with us, and I feel like him being who he is, he's allowed himself to kind of relax and understand that he doesn't have to be what his fandom or like the he's gonna be a lottery pick, and so he doesn't have that pressure on him because we're a good team. I feel like we have a lot of good players on our team to where he doesn't have to feel like he has to take all that onto his shoulders.
And what would you say, like taking a look at your schedule with the Wildcats, where would you say like the training from Monday through to Sunday, how does that sort of look for you guys? Like, especially when you're traveling on the road, because you guys were just away for a while, so. And
it was a midweek game as well. So what's that like?
So does that? I can imagine it'll probably maybe change a lot. It's not always consistent.
Whenever we have the more traditional schedule, we play on the weekends. Like the Fridays, we divvy it up pretty nicely to where we might have usually two days off a week. And so, but our practices are very competitive. So we because we work so hard, we're given that time off to be able to take care of ourselves, because you have to earn things like that. It's not just given to you, because if you're not playing well, then you obviously need to practice more and be able to sharpen up some things. But we've been able to, like I said, string off a nice couple of victories, but been able to also take care of ourselves at the same time.
And what about like the gym schedule? Like, are you as a team like big on like are you in the weights room quite a bit, or is that not really something that you like to focus on?
We lift 2 times a week, or sometimes 3. We usually lift before we go practice, but our lifts aren't necessarily like anything crazy by any means. We lift for maybe an hour 20, and then we have an hour off before we practice, and so everything is thoroughly thought through. Lifting is important because it helps with prevent injuries as well, but we don't go in there and overdo it to where we're sore. We can't practice well.
Yeah. And what does like a prep sort of look like for you on like game day? Is there any sort of routines you like to go through? Like some guys like to be locked in, listen to music. How do you sort of approach game day with your routine?
I'm a kind of a person of habit. I do the same routine every game, every practice. But mine is more so just how I get my shots up in preparation for a practice or the game. I shoot 10 mid-range shots from 7 spots and make 20 free throws in a row. Have to make them in a row.
Yeah.
Then I go shoot. Then I shoot 23s from each spot and make another 20 free throws in a row. And then I'll do a variation of shots, and then another 20 in a row, and then one more segment of shooting, and then 20 free throws in a row, and then I'm done.
Yeah, I mean, asking a little bit more on like the mental side of preparation, like for example, there's some boxers that we've interviewed on here, and they talk about how big they are on visualization, right? Would you say that's something that you sort of like to do with basketball, visualizing winning the game or making a certain shot? Like, are you big on visualization as a whole?
I would say that's probably something I would do the night before the game.
Yeah.
I'm a heavy thinker, and so sometimes I have the game play out in my head before the game actually happens. Understanding the schematics of what we've put in place to go against the team that we're finna face. Understanding what they like to do. Kind of just doing a recap of everything that we've done in practice and the film that we've watched.
Yeah.
Understanding who I'm going to be guarding and variation of things that they like to do.
And we just have a couple like personal questions for you, and the first one that I have for you is like with people you look up to for advice. I'm sure there'd be a long list, but who would you say in your life is your biggest supporter when it comes to basketball?
I would say my wife. She's my biggest supporter in life. I would say if I was to have a conversation with somebody about basketball, probably my dad, because he understands what I'm talking about, and I guess the verbiage that's used with basketball. He's someone that I leaned on heavily growing up and through college as well. Kind of hard now because of the time difference, but we definitely stay in touch.
Yeah.
And for any of the upcoming basketballers or just like the young athletes out there that want to make it to a high level in sport like yourself, do you have any advice for them?
I would say don't take the moment for granted. I feel like there's a lot of times growing up to where I feel like I was good enough to not have to go work out as much because you kind of get shell minded whenever you're dealing with high school. You can be the best in high school wherever you're at, but understanding that you're not going to be in high school forever, and so the time that you put in will definitely show.
Yeah, and just a couple mental questions just before we finish up here. Recently for you, you've had a lot happening. Like you've just been married. Congratulations for that, by the way. And obviously you've said that your wife's your biggest supporter. You have a baby on the way as well, and obviously playing with the Wildcats. Would you say you've been a little bit overwhelmed of everything that's going on in your life, and how do you sort of deal with balancing different aspects of your life?
I wouldn't say I've been overwhelmed at all. I'm a very laid-back person. I don't necessarily get worked up about anything. I don't feel like that there's nothing that I can't handle. With the baby on the way is my child will get here in April, so the season will be over with. So my only thing is just getting her what she needs and being there for her. But that's something separate than basketball. And with basketball, I don't get too worked up. Basketball is basketball. You can't make every shot, and understanding that. You can't win every game either, but you can also strive to be the best that you can and learn from your mistakes. And so, I don't necessarily get too high or too low from life. I guess I'm an even keel at all
level-headed.
times. Yeah. So I don't don't let anything really bother me.
Fair enough. And just one last one. What would you say is the key motivation for you? Like when things can sometimes get a little bit busy for you, or when you have a bad training or a bad game, or even coming off good games, what sort of keeps you pushing that extra limit?
I feel like it's like I said, regardless if I play, well or not, or if I make a lot of shots, I feel like I find things where I could have done better. And so just trying to work on those certain things. Like if I miss a certain shot, I'm gonna go work on that more than I would, or I'm gonna make that more of a focal point of my next workout, or getting up shots on my off day. Not being happy because I made some shots in practice, understanding that it's the work that I put in, the reputation that I've created to where those shots are able to go in, and so just keeping that rhythm is big for me. So I don't fall into complacency or like, I scored 20 last game, so now I can relax. Well, no, because it's because I put in the work that's why I scored 20, and so I have to keep up that work ethic to where I might not score 20 in the next game, but I might be able to find another way to impact the game.
Yeah. Well, ladies and gentlemen, Kristian Doolittle, thank you so much for joining us today. We really do appreciate it. Obviously, during the season, it's not every day we get a Perth Wildcats player in here, so we appreciate it. All the best for the rest of the season. We'll be watching. Everyone listening and watching, this will be on YouTube, Spotify, and all the other podcast platforms that you can find us on. Go and follow our socials. Go and follow Kristian as well. Keep an eye out for him and the Wildcats. Hopefully, you guys can get that championship. And yeah, we'll catch you guys in the next episode of The Athlete's Mind. Thank you.